What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Unruly Podcast. This is your host, Sticks, and a lot in the sports news this week. A lot has been popping off. But yeah, first off, let's just get into it. First off, we got KD still wants out of Brooklyn. And I don't know what else to say. Well, first, let's give some context. He had a meeting this week with Joe Tsai, the owner, saying basically he doesn't want to be there because he doesn't agree with the direction the team is going in, and basically he put him in a sticky situation, saying it's either him or it's Sean Marks and Steve Nash, who is obviously the head coach. And I don't know where KD thinks he has this imaginary leverage, because KD right now has absolutely zero leverage, zero. And when you really think about it, it's kind of the Kyrie card where he thinks him signing the extension means he kind of, he can walk into the place, shrug his shoulders, think he owns the place, but he doesn't. But meaning he could think, oh yeah, if I say, oh I want out because I don't like the team, the direction it's going in, and I don't like Sean Marks, who has been exceptional. I don't like Steve Nash, who I handpicked, but it's fine. Yeah, I definitely am just gonna completely blow up my franchise more than I already have, just to satisfy KD for when he retires in 3 years. But whatever. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. But no, obviously Joe Tsai does have a lot to think about, because obviously you do have Kevin Durant, one of the best players on the planet, still a top 10 talent, maybe even top 5 talent. But when it comes to this, it's like he'd be stupid to fire Sean Marks, at least. If you want to fire Steve Nash, I understand. He hasn't been the greatest coach. But the main reason why you even have him for a coach is obviously KD and Kyrie both said, yeah, we don't want, I think it was Kenny Atkinson who was there before him. They said, yeah, we don't want Kenny Atkinson. We want Steve Nash. Obviously, Steve Nash has a connection with KD back at the Warriors, and they said that they developed a great chemistry, great situation there, and he was vibing with it. So he said, oh, I want you to be the head coach of my new team. And Joe Tsai said, sure, that's fine. And now it's kind of coming back to bite him in the ass, where it's, no, I will say, obviously, I kind of agree with KD on the fact of, do I think the Nets are going in the right direction? No. But the reason why I think it's that way is because the situation that Kyrie and KD have put the Nets in. As this quote says, isn't it the actions of my own, isn't it the consequences of my own actions? Because KD's got to sit there and say, at least take accountability and say, oh, well, or me and Kyrie put this roster together. Sean Marks has done nothing to help us. And yeah, I want him gone too. Steve Nash, the coach I hired when we had a pretty decent coach before that, oh, no, fine. It's fine. We don't want him. We could coach ourselves, remember? Maybe that's what KD's thinking. He's talking to Kyrie saying, this is finally our chance to just coach ourselves. So maybe we'll just get rid of the GM. Kyrie will be the GM. KD will be the coach. It'll all work out. They'll all win 20 championships. But no, KD got to miss me with this one. Just this act alone has made me lose so much respect for him, because people have said, yeah, the two rings he won in Golden State were phony. I don't really care about that. Yeah, he did build probably one of the greatest super teams of all time. But when you really think about it, he had to do what he thought was right for his career. He won rings, fine, whatever. He won 2 finals MVPs, because obviously he was the best player on those teams. But when you think of it in totality, he seems to always run away from a very good situation, or when the team needs him most. Because he ran away from OKC when they needed him most. He ran away from, and obviously I'm not trying to discount the fact that he had Russ as a teammate, and you can't win a championship with Russ, even back then, prime Russ. He ran away from Golden State, and they were winning championships after championships. And now he's trying to run away from Brooklyn, knowing, I'm kind of the reason why this happened. You could say whatever you want about Steve Nash's coaching style, his rotations, but when you really think about it, they had Kenny Atkinson, who I think is a better coach, and don't get me wrong, yes, Kenny Atkinson is known for more coaching up young guys. Like he had D'Lo before. He had who else for young guys? He had D'Lo. I know he brought D'Lo to an All-Star game. He snuck him into an All-Star game. Kind of had him in like a Wiggins role where he had one of the best careers of his career, one of the best years of his career. I'm sorry, but I don't know what KD's thinking. Where he wanted to fire him and go with Steve Nash, who's had no formal coaching experience, no assistants, no. Obviously, he was like helping out the Warriors, but it's not like he was really a part of the system because Mike Brown was assistant head coach and obviously Steve Kerr was the head coach. But when you really look at it in totality, it seems Kevin Durant is delusional about the fact that he has no leverage. He is probably going to stay in Brooklyn, and not even for the fact of, they want him to stay. He's probably going to stay because every owner is looking at the situation saying, okay, he just signed the extension. He has 4 years left. They're paying him damn near $200 million, $198. Why the hell would I let him go for virtually nothing? Because if we're going to use trade scenarios, Rudy Gobert got 5 first-round picks and some. And imagine what KD, you might as well just, the only team that could get that is OKC with their, I think they have 20-something first-round picks in the next, 10 years. That's the only team that has enough to trade. And even then, I still don't think they would do it. And at the same, you got to think, is any team going to want to look at KD and say, all right, maybe we get KD for 2 more, maybe 3 more good years, and then he starts to decline or whatever, and we blow up our young nucleus where we know maybe in a few years we have a chance to compete, or get Kevin Durant for right now, maybe compete, maybe he wants to leave in a year, and then be back to where we started. So if you're asking me, do I believe KD's ever going to get traded? I say it's a very big if, because everything would have to go right. So I would say realistically, no. I believe he'll be playing for the Brooklyn Nets this season, whether he likes it or not, because I don't believe he's going to sit out. Do I believe the Brooklyn Nets are going to be in contention? No, because yes, their roster isn't bad. They still have Seth Curry. They still have Joe Harris. They still have Kyrie, KD, Claxton. I think they got rid of Bruce Brown, but obviously Ben Simmons. How I could forget Ben Simmons, but it's not a bad team when you really look at it in totality. But do I think with KD's mindset they're going to win? No. Do I think Ben Simmons' defense is going to help them? Of course it is. But KD, once again, running from the grind. Just, it seems whenever the going gets tough, he goes, I don't really need to do this. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to have to face any adversity, and that's fine. You want to go just win rings, go be a hired gun, fine. But at least admit to it and stop trying to act like, I don't do that. But KD, of course, running away from everything that he thinks he should get. But yeah, let's move on to Atlanta and Philly. Those are 2 teams coming out of the East. A team that could definitely kind of emulate what the Nets had this year, or what projected to be this year, meaning in Philly, because obviously they have James Harden, they have Joel Embiid. Who else they got on that team? They got, I'd have to relook at the roster, but I know they got some new acquisitions. But the reason why I'm bringing the hype up is new video surfaced of Scotty Barnes of Toronto locking James Harden up in ones, and everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, hey, James Harden don't got it no more." But if you really look at it, if you look at the whole video itself, he went 6 for 9 in those runs. Yes, Scotty Barnes locked him up in that one, and Prime Harden would probably go 9 for 9. But we got to look at is Harden isn't going to be that guy that he was 3 years ago in Houston. And anybody thinking he can emulate that is kind of insane. Because if we're looking at it realistically, Joel Embiid is probably one of the, a top 10 talent. Is he in the playoffs? Again, he is when he plays. Now, how much he plays in the playoffs, I want to say is up to him, but it's up to his health. We've seen this year is probably the healthiest he's ever been going into the playoffs, and then suffers obviously a face injury, and kind of he still played well at the back end that he could play and rushed back from surgery. But even then, he was so limited that he couldn't do as much. James Harden being your number one and Tyrese Maxey being your number two, you're not going to go anywhere with that. Nowhere. Obviously, they have Matisse Thybulle, who I think is one of the worst players of all time. And he's getting paid big money. If he's your third best player, if Joel Embiid goes down and you have Tyrese Maxey, who I think is a very fine player, but if he's your second best player, you're in trouble. You're honestly in trouble. And another team that's kind of in the same situation is Atlanta. Obviously, they acquired DeJounte Murray, and they think that tandem between him and Trae Young is going to produce results. But if you really look at it with two very ball-dominant players, it's hard about when we think what their record is going to be or what placement they're going to have. Because I could see their ceiling being maybe fifth seed. Their floor, definitely a play-in team. But seeing as they were in the ECF 2 years ago, that's underachieving. Right now, they should be in like ultimate playoff contention or ultimate championship contention, but they're not when you really look at the scheme of things. Because if we're just looking at the East, I'm putting Celtics above them, putting the Bucks above them, putting Philly above them, putting even the Nets. And yeah, that's about it. But that's still that's 4 or 5 teams. So yeah, like I said, fifth seed. Then I give them maybe a second round exit if they're lucky. But when you really look at it, I just don't think the pairing of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray is going to have the results that they were hoping to have. Because Trae Young is going to be Trae Young. But you have DeJounte Murray now who's going to want his touches, who's going to want to average maybe 25, 26. And yeah, you could use the excuse of, there's only one basketball. But I mean more of the fact of, yes, they could both create their own shots, but they're not very good at creating shots for other people. So how is that going to work for the team, especially when they got rid of Gallinari, they got rid of Montrez is still dealing whatever he's dealing with. It's looking real bad for him. It's looking real bad. And to keep it on the topic kind of Atlanta, I'm going to bring up the Paolo and DeJounte Murray beef that we've seen online. And that's just insane when you really think about it. So for some context, right now they're playing Pro-Am games in the lead up to the season. And I don't know where I want to say it was Seattle. It was DeJounte Murray versus Paolo. Obviously, Paolo being the number 1 overall pick in this past draft. Everybody was very excited to see him play. And the viral clip of DeJounte Murray absolutely embarrassing Paolo goes viral. And next thing you know, Paolo screenshots or screen records a video of the poster. And he posted saying, you unfollowed me, straight bitch, basically stuff like that. And then we thought, that was kind of the end of it until DeJounte Murray replied basically saying, you're not you're no longer humble. You're trying to use that first round pick shit on me. I'm not going to let that slide. Which I'd love to know the context of this, because it kind of seemed like if anyone was trying to bully the other person or trying to flex some bullshit, it was DeJounte Murray, because he was going at him. And when you even look at the game, DeJounte Murray, yeah, he had a nice game, but Paolo dropped 40. So, yeah, we could talk about the poster, and yes, it was great. He embarrassed Paolo. You could say, that's his welcome to the league moment or something. But kid still dropped 40. So, I still think kid's going to be special. I think this will blow over, but I think DeJounte definitely took this out of hand. I don't know what he was thinking when you really look at it, saying another part of the Instagram tweet he was trying to pull up was, you were humble. I remember when you were asking to get rebounds for me. And then he ends it with, I hope you could humble yourself because I'm still trying to root for you because that's who I am. Which is such a backwards logic. I don't know. Just there's a lot of weird beefs happening right now. Obviously, DeJounte also went viral for embarrassing probably a plumber on his day off trying to compete against other real basketball players. So I think DeJounte's just kind of feeling himself after the viral hits he's had this season, this off season. Had basically 3 videos gone viral of him in pro-am games. He has that video, the one I was talking about with Paulo. He has the video I just spoke about where he embarrassed a fucking plumber. And then he has a video with him, Trae Young, and John Collins doing a double alley-oop. So he's probably feeling himself thinking, oh, I'm the shit right now. Obviously, he got paid top dollar. He left a struggling franchise to be with a maybe hoping contender. So he's feeling himself right now. But when you really look at it, I think he's in the wrong. I think Paolo still won if you really look at it. But to each their own. I guess we'll see when the season starts. And to move on to the NFL. Well, kind of to the NFL. In recent news, former NFL football receiver Terrell Owens gets bullied by a Karen, or tries to get bullied by a Karen. Now, this is a hilarious story. So, I guess the story is he's going to his mailbox. He lives in seems to be a gated community, driving to his mailbox, which it probably isn't that far. And this white woman is walking down, or she's on her bike, and she tells him, slow down. He's like, I'm not speeding. And she goes, oh, I need you to fucking slow down. And then so he gets out of his car. He's like, the mailbox is right there. I'm not speeding. Why would I be speeding past the mailbox, which is my destination? And then she's basically saying, oh, he attacks me. I'm going to call the police on you. He goes, all right, fine, call the police. I'll be waiting right here. So he completely gets out of his car. He's waiting, and then the police shows up. He turns on his camera on his phone, and he's taking a video. And basically, the video of him with the cop, you could find it online, but the video of him with the cop is hilarious, where this girl is trying to say, oh, he's threatening to her. Keep in mind, this Karen has her husband with her, and is saying, oh, this man was terrifying me. And let me get this out of the way. Yes, I know to some people, T.O. can be very intimidating. The man was 6'4", 250, and still is in great shape. But you have your husband there. Not only that, he didn't seem to be going in any violent manner. And then as soon as the cop shows up, she's showing her crocodile tears, saying, "Oh, he tried to attack me." And then another neighbor comes out. I know, very confusing story. Another neighbor comes out she's saying, "Oh, well, I was in the garage the whole time and I didn't see any of this." And then the cop obviously has to go question them separately. So she goes to go question the Karen. And this entire time, T.O.'s having fun on live, where he's basically he's saying, wow, I've seen Karens on TV. I've seen them on the internet. I never thought it was like real. And he's like, oh no, I experienced it today. And then he's jabbing it up with the lady that said she was in the garage, saying, oh, what is she saying to the police? And he's basically saying, oh, she's trying to lie. Now she's bringing out crocodile tears. And I just find the situation hilarious, because she tried to use, and then she's trying to tell him, oh, you got liens on your house. The board is saying you need to be kicked out, all this other type of stuff. And when realistically, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Because even he's like, oh, that's news to me. That's news to me, considering this is my second house. So I just thought that was a little bit of funny news for this week, because it's 2022 and we're still dealing with Karens. Still dealing with racism and all that other bullshit. I didn't want to get too political. I just wanted to raise that story just because I thought it was hilarious. And apparently in the state he is, I completely forget where. I think it's Georgia. They're supposed to fine you for racially profiling. And that's also the lady from the garage was telling T.O. And T.O.'s like, oh, I'm not worried about that. I just need her to know that she's not going to play me like some punk and then have her get away with it. So it's beyond me what really happened. It doesn't seem like T.O.'s never had anything off the field. It's not like, I don't know, Deshaun Watson. If something like this were to happen, you're more prone to believe he might have done something. as much problems as he had on the field for excessive celebrations, excessive whatever. He's never had anything off the field, never been in trouble. So I just find it hard to believe that all of a sudden now he would just snap. And I don't know. It just seems this Karen was trying to get a little something out of her day and then got screwed out of it. So sucks to that Karen. Fuck you. You should just learn to be a better person. Just learn to be a better person. It's not hard. But another subject we got to talk about, staying in NFL. Lamar Jackson still has not been paid. And I bring this up just quickly and shortly, saying Lamar Jackson somehow still not been paid when Kyler's been paid. A bunch of receivers have been paid. Deshaun has been paid, garnering all the stuff that he was garnering. And yes, I would say Deshaun Watson is still a better quarterback than Lamar, but with all the baggage he was carrying, he still got signed. So I'm just asking the Ravens, what the fuck is going on? Where it's, you gotta sign the kid. You gotta. Man has an MVP in his second year, unanimous. Not only that, he's 37-12 as a starter. He's led your team to the playoffs virtually every year, compared to other than last year where everybody on that team was injured, including himself. So I don't know what else you could ask from the man other than, oh, just please take our franchise. He's literally led their franchise to the at least to the playoffs, and could have probably led them to the promised land if he had an actual receiver. But they don't seem like they want to pay an actual receiver, and it seems they don't even want to pay him. So not the Browns, the Ravens are in a very weird situation, but they're kind of lucky they're in a not crazy bad division now with Deshaun Watson having his decision up in the air. The Steelers now don't have Big Ben and have Mitch Trubisky, who's probably going to start for them. And then, realistically, we all know those are kind of the only three we really see as a threat in that division. But Lamar, all I got to say is Lamar's got to get paid. Lamar's got to get paid. I don't care what it is. If Kyler got 230.5, then he's got to get 235. I'm not saying it's all going to be guaranteed because I think that's still a horrible idea. But if Kyler got 230.5, 105 at signing, Lamar needs to get 110 at signing and 235 full in contract. So hopefully in the next coming days, obviously we are officially now into preseason. We will see what happens, but it's not looking good for the Ravens. It's not looking good for Lamar not getting paid this year and him getting franchised. But the Cowboys made that mistake and they ended up paying even more for it. So we'll see what really happens. And finally, we are on to what some say is very sad news, or some say very happy news for the NFL. Last week, we got confirmation that Deshaun Watson would be suspended for 6 games, a la Judge Sue Robinson. And I was saying on here last week, I don't think the Browns are going to be stupid enough, or not the Browns, the NFL would be stupid enough to step in and say, oh, well, we're going to step in, have Roger Goodell be judge and executioner once again, because officially they wanted an indefinite suspension, at least 1 year. But they're willing to part with 12 games and $8 million in fines, which is unheard of. But basically, Judge Sue Robinson said, yes, as much as this is egregious, and I think he was using predatory behavior, I cannot rewrite the rules for him when you have not set these guidelines, which, in a way, people are mad at her for saying that, but the NFL is so inconsistent with how they do things. It's how can you be mad at her for not wanting to set new preferences when she's like, all right, why am I going to set your new preferences when that's your job? And people are getting mad at her saying, oh, well, she should have gave him a year. Well, in the guidelines, if you look at all the stuff that's happened, yes, his was more egregious. But if you look at all the other cases, and all the cases kind of similar to this, they all got 6 games. Or they got 8 in reduced, they got 12 in reduced, they got 10 reduced, whatever it may be. But basically, every suspension has virtually been 6 games for anything with this kind of label. And like I said, the NFL has now stepped in, and Roger Goodell, instead of himself, he appointed someone, which doesn't give me much faith about. And this guy is also the same guy who voted on the Ezekiel Elliott situation back in 2017, which gave him also 6 games. So when you realistically look at it, I think they're going to get their man. They're getting their ducks in a row. They're going to give him at least a year. And, I mean, contract-wise, that doesn't hurt them as much. But obviously, they were hoping, they saw 6 games and they were happy. And they were hoping NFL wouldn't retaliate or they wouldn't say anything back. But I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Because I don't agree with it for the simple fact of if this is the stuff you have in place, you gotta kind of keep it at least somewhat consistent. Because don't get me wrong, I was on here way early in the process, early 2021, saying, oh, I think Deshaun Watson was innocent. And then you see me a few months ago saying, oh, I think Deshaun Watson is guilty. And I still think Deshaun Watson is guilty of predatory behavior. But you got to keep it consistent. And yeah, obviously the law doesn't have anything to be consistent, so why would the NFL? But we got to at least have some type of consistency. If you made you got to kind of just use it as the rule of, all right, well, since this happened, we got to make a new rule for it. Because with Ray Rice, they saw what happened with Ray Rice. They saw what happened with Zeke. They saw what happened with Big Ben. And they still were like, no, these rules should work. And I just, don't get me wrong, obviously hindsight is 2020, but when you really look at it, they had a chance to see these rule books. If there's multiple, I'm not saying obviously to the tune of 25 cases, but if there's multiple sexual assault cases, this will get this amount of time or whatever, or this will get this amount of fines. You had it in writing. I bet you she gladly would have been like, well, it's in your writing. I have to give them a year. I have to give them 12 games. I have to give them $5, $8 million, $10 million in fines. But since you chose to just be like, oh, they'll all be good boys. And of course, when you look at the system, you could also blame the NFL players because they had a chance to vote on Roger Goodell completely being kicked out of not power, but being not allowed to rule on these verdicts. But they're like, oh, let's just sign it. We get a few extra practices off, a little bit more THC. The levels could go up or whatever. So they signed off on that, and this was a stipulation, and it's screwing them now because you never think, oh, you're going to go before a judge. You could sign whatever tax or whatever it fucking takes just to get something for you beneficial at the time, thinking, oh, I won't ever be before a judge. I'm smarter than that. And then something happens, you go, damn. I really wish I didn't sign that, or I really wish I had something better put in place. And Deshaun Watson's facing the music now, and do I think he deserves a year? I do honestly believe he deserves a year of suspension. I don't care if he served last year, and yes, he was 25 or turning 26 at the beginning of this process. He'll be 28 when he's done if he gets reinstated, which he should. But when you look at it, what he did was awful. I'm not just talking about image for the league. I'm talking about awful for humanity. And I'm not just going to let, just because he's an athlete, a black athlete at that, get away with it because, well, we need some semblance of security there. No, because if it was a white athlete, I'd say the same thing, Hispanic, whatever, even if it wasn't an athlete. So I just want to keep it somewhat consistent. Because, yes, I do believe he deserves to be suspended. Do I agree with the way it's happening? No. But it's kind of the way it has to. And like I was also saying last week, it undermines Sue Robinson because it's like, oh, we finally made this new process. She will be the judge of all these things. And then your first test case that goes through, you go, no, I'll figure it. Never mind. We're going to take care of it. That's the equivalent of like, I don't know, say you're a manager at a job, or you're training to be a manager at a job, and they're saying we're giving you the keys to the kingdom, and then you make one decision, and they go, well, we didn't like the decision, so we're going to make the decision. You're going to feel like, then what the fuck was I even used for? What the fuck was my time even used for? So, and they probably also are doing this because Sue Robinson clowned them for it. She basically said, she was like, yeah, you guys can't keep your shit together, so why the fuck should I have to? And she ain't wrong. NFL, buck up. Like, you gotta realize players are not saints. Players are, realistically, players are just normal people. And normal people are usually awful people. If you're really looking at it that way, that's just a fact. So, I don't know what the NFL will do, or we'll see what they actually give him. We'll see if Deshaun Watson appeals that. And even if he appeals, he's appealing to Roger Goodell. So, of course, it's not going to go through. It's not going to go well. So, realistically, I believe we will not see Deshaun Watson at all this year. And even if we were, I'd be super shocked. I'd be completely shocked because there's no way, especially now, that they don't give him a year. They don't want him. They don't want him in the NFL this year. And obviously, there's going to be backlash both ways, and they knew that. But I think there's more backlash this way for the simple fact of you made a ruling or you made a way to kind of make yourself step away from it. And when you didn't get the result you liked, you go, oh, well, let's just skew it a little bit so it helps us out or it makes us look a little bit better. So let me know what you guys think about Deshaun Watson potentially getting suspended for another year, six games, like it's already been predetermined, 8 games, 10 games, 12 games, if he gets any fines. So I don't know. You guys have to let me know if I'm bugging or if I'm making sense. But that'll do it for this episode of the Unruly Podcast. Make sure to go like and subscribe on whatever platforms you're listening to. Please make sure to go follow our TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, that's all I got for you. And it's been another week of Unruly Podcast. I'll see you guys next week.